Hi, everyone. Good Thursday afternoon, and welcome to the Rhode Island State House for GoLocal Live. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us as we welcome our first guest on, Representative Greg Amore. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Kate. Appreciate it.
I appreciate your coming back. You've been under the lights here before to talk about all things political, and you have a bill that you are introducing that I want to talk with viewers about. You're in education. You know young people. This would be a bill that would allow 17-year-olds to be able to vote in primaries. Now, talk with us a little bit about this, what could possibly be viewed as early voting, if you will, but
Sure.
Why 17-year-olds and why primaries?
So it's not all 17-year-olds, right? 17-year-olds who will be eligible to vote in the general election. So this cohort is basically kids who have birthdays from August to November.
Okay.
And they're going to be involved in the general election process anyway. And so we thought that it was a good idea to have them involved in choosing the people who are going to be on the ballot in the general election. It's a small cohort of people, but 22 states do it, including red and blue states alike. And it seems to be a common sense way to get somebody involved in the process and not put up a barrier to their entire electoral process.
You make an interesting point that, of course, if they didn't vote in the primary, then they're choosing candidates that they didn't have a say in. What have your colleagues been saying about this proposal when you're talking about it with them?
It was presented yesterday in committee, and it was well received. It was well received last year. I think people have to get by the 17-year-old thing, and then once they get by the 17-year-old thing, they say, okay, that makes sense. You know, the 26th Amendment allowed for the vote for 18-year-olds based on their military service. So I see every day in the high school at East Providence, the kids enlist at 17, and then when they become 18 and graduate, they serve. This is very similar to that, and I think it's just a good way to get active and engage kids involved.
Okay, so again, if you're 17 and eligible to vote in the general election,
Correct.
This was a piece of legislation that we'll continue to keep an eye on moving forward. Well, we have you here before we welcome our next legislator. Anything else you want to bring to viewers' attention while we have you here on live?
Sure. We're trying to figure out the transportation situation and education. We've got a federal requirement that has us shipping students who are in state care all over the place, and the districts are really being hurt by that cost.
Okay.
So we're trying to figure out how to mitigate the cost of the districts, have the state share some of that, and try to get things in place so that we don't break the education budgets for the districts.
Okay, keeping an eye on education for students, and again, allowing 17-year-olds who would be eligible to vote in the November election to be able to vote in the primaries.
Correct.
We'll provide a link to that bill language, and we'll continue to follow it here on GoLocal Live, but wanted to have you bring it right to the viewers here. Representative Amore, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with our next guest here at the Rhode Island State House. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Rhode Island State House. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining in as we bring you the latest in politics here from Smith Hill. I have a familiar face, Representative Bob Petrocchi. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Kate. Nice to be with you again.
I appreciate your coming on because I want to talk about something that you are spearheading, and this is a study commission to look at recycling for multifamily homes. Tell us a little bit about this thought process and what you're discussing with colleagues as you're looking to expand recycling in the state.
Okay. So I can't take full credit for this. You know, I'll give credit where it's due. Former state representative and minority leader Patricia Morgan, through our many conversations, coupled with conversations with my mom at the same time, who lives in a senior complex in Boston, and they do recycle. So, you know, the combination of all those conversations kind of got me thinking, hey, let's bring this to Rhode Island. So here I am with the study commission.
So what have you been hearing from constituents about this? Do you think there's a need that you hear from folks that they say we want to increase these recycling capacities?
Well, honestly, it's not so prevalent in my district, but we have what's called tipping fees in Rhode Island, and that's what the municipalities are charged per ton to dump refuse at the landfill. So recycling products, I don't know if folks know or not, but they're not charged tipping fees. So, I mean, that should be a big concern to anyone, whether you have multifamily units in your district or you don't. You know, it costs the municipalities. So, yeah, I think it's worth looking into. We have a lot to learn.
Do you think that this would be revenue neutral, or could there even be cost savings?
Well, I guess that we're going to have to wait till we get into the study a little more to actually find that information out. You know, I don't have all those answers right now, but let's say we hope that it's revenue neutral at the very least, you know. So
what's the game plan moving forward? The commission is in place. What are we looking at for expected time frame to have some findings?
we just had actually tonight is there's a meeting in environmental to extend the date for this. I think it's going to be for another couple months because we actually just started, and so we're going to be going for at least a couple months, you know, before we get any type of information out.
Do you have any anticipation that there could potentially be legislation introduced this year, or do you think it might be a longer process, perhaps looking into next year?
Yeah, that's really hard to tell, Kate. I, full disclosure, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions to be answered. You know, hurdles. You know, how do you change people's habits? You know, how do you educate them to participate? There's going to be a lot of hurdles and questions to be answered. So.
And have you heard from folks who've raised concerns about this? Is there anyone that doesn't want increased recycling in the state?
Well, I mean, I've gotten a lot of great feedback, but I will say one person did reach out to me, and because she was in the condominium business, so she said that they attempted this where she was, and it's very difficult to get people not to throw pizza boxes, say for instance, where they don't belong. But this is something that the study is all about, to try and hash through these things to see if we can make it happen.
Because even on the individual home recycling level, there's still an education component that is undertaken all the time, especially at the state level, and it would just probably need to be extended to multifamily units.
Absolutely. Just think when recycling was introduced into everyone's the average person's homes, it takes a while for people to get used to the idea, to participate, to throw the right materials in the bin. So
we'll see moving forward the results again from this commission that Representative Bob Catroci is overseeing here at the Rhode Island State House. And I know you're busy and you're off to the races here today, and we're going to be back in a little bit, but don't go anywhere here at the Rhode Island State House. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.